If I'm walking down the street and I see a black man with a white woman, there's a weakness in him.
Ooh.
Something in him is weak. On the other side, I think when I see a black woman with a white man, despite all the historical context that we know
Yeah.
that sits behind that, I think, oh, she must have got just she's tired. Like she must have got so fed up that she's getting to rest now.
I think just as a black man, we're tired of that. You can see clearly when it's just. I've heard a lot of theories behind it of why that exists, and one of the ones I think I probably most latched on. We have a thought. Our people, our men and our women are for us. So when we see it not work out that way, we have this backlash as if something is somehow wrong. We've been cheated somehow. But in an open global market, dating market, people really should just go for what is best for. I think we need to let go of the idea that have to be with this person when we all can agree. This is because we could all agree dating is difficult. Finding love, finding that partner, rock with you to the end of your day is difficult. Why compound that with other issues? Now that doesn't mean I'm saying just exclusively date here, exclusively date here, but see what's best for you first and foremost. Yes, race loyalty is a thing. I think statistically, most of that, regardless of what race you come from, and the date with how we all are. Is it because we want offspring that looks for like us, or there's just a myriad of reasons. When we convolute the face with this sort of double standard nonsense, it only makes things hard. But guys, you like, comment, subscribe. We're gonna really dive into this, and depending how we'll get into real back and forth on both sides of it, right? From black men dating white women, or just interracial men and women, both sides. I want to be fair. I want to have an actual conversation about this. So just look out for, if you're interested in this, subscribe. If you like this type of commentary, and I would like to hear like this actually create a dialogue, just continue. Let's go.
Sis, white men probably aren't going to marry you, and that's okay. I mean, it seems like when you go online right now, you see all these swirl and interracial channels, which nothing wrong with that. But I think sometimes the issue is that it can start to promote this fantasy life as if that's the ideal relationship and as if that's the majority of relationships today. And in reality, when you look at the US Census Bureau and what's actually going on, it's not even remotely true. And let me also clarify this. Sexual access is not marital access. Just because a guy wants to have sex with you or maybe will even date you for a couple of weeks or months or years doesn't mean he sees you as wife material.
Yeah, we convolute that greatly, and in more ways than just saying, um, this person open to this race because I've dated and entertained. When we and let's be fair, when we will constantly say that men will do anything. If you put a hole in a piece of fruit, he'll stick his in there, right? It's a family show. He'll do it anyway. So when he dates you, or you guys have a one night stand, it doesn't mean now that this is now where you are. Often, what we'll see, and we'll both genders will do this, we'll think that's our level. You if you caught a woman and she was kind of just had low self esteem and she entertained you, you think that you can grab all eights and nines now? No, you are in a slump. Universe opened up for you and threw you a bone. There you were. So we do this often, and then we find ourselves further and further away from where reality is. What we see a lot of this is in women when they say, "I dated a rich man. He's rich." What does that mean for you? Does it mean you have access to these type of men? Access to those type of men, we always look at that in terms of longevity, in terms of marriage, in terms of you being on the important documents, in terms of you having real sway and in his life. You can call him up and ask for things, or he's invested in you rather than he's just really invested in your body. We never really see that, as at least for men, we don't look at that as saying that means anything. Yeah. rich. Why wouldn't you want to sleep with him? Why wouldn't you want to be around him? It doesn't mean that historically you're now only going to date rich people. You could just have lucked up, just like the man did with the woman, low self esteem.
Now, why is the rate so low despite the fact interracial marriage has been legal for decades now? I mean, there's a couple of reasons for this, but I think one of it is quite simple. A lot of men at the end of the day just want kids who look like them. I mean, it may be considered misogynist to say this, or it may be considered bad or racist to say this, but at the end of the day, a lot of guys out there simply want children who look like them.
I think, while that, I think most of the time that's true, there has been this, uh, you want to call it rising to the level of fetish, having mixed kids and what they look like. That sort of look that's become very popular to people look and see that there's a benefit of dating interracially.
And then when you combine that with the fact that, as income and as class increases, people tend to be more race loyal, I think it's pretty clear. Not to mention the great replacement theory is a pretty popular ideology today. So, again, there's a lot of men who are now doubling down on their race loyalty. There's a lot of guys today in general who are just strictly fed up with women in America. Why? Because they think they're aligned with feminism. You have a lot of white men who won't even date or marry their own white woman in America. They'd rather go to Thailand than ever consider marrying any woman in America because they're just so tired of feminism.
And you see also men who have been married, is there's huge expat community all around the world, not just in Thailand, all different. If you guys have traveled at all, you've seen it. The small little communities full of peoples. Yeah, I want pancakes and eggs for breakfast. Sir, this is middle of Thailand. Not a tradition. Yeah, okay. I know where I am. You usually go and you hear your music. Okay, this is the spot where the Americans are. This is the spot where the older gentlemen are. Feminism has caused this repeal in not just in I want to say the desirability of not just American, but sort of Western culture. Look at it and you say, I don't want to have antagonists with my spouse for the rest of my life. I get it. Different ways of feminism, but we often see the worst kind of it where, well, men are and the patriarchy, all this is bad. When I just wanted to love you, it seems to become harder and harder, harder to do. And just say, okay, I want the peace. I wanted something that's easier. And if that's increasingly likely not going to be best.
Don't believe me? Just look at the manosphere. Like, the reason I want to say this is because I have no issue with interracial relationships, but more often I see women, especially black women, promoting interracial marriage as the best option when they don't know how to get along with their own men. And if you think that you who don't know how to get along with men within their own community are going to have an easy time going into another community and just finding the high value man, because let's just be honest, it's not like you women want, average guys. You all want the high value rich men.
But now to be clear, what we often see is there are harder and more stringent rules for black men put on by he has to be he has to hit these criteria. Now, on average, the income disparity between black men, white men isn't that huge. It's not 20,000, 30,000. Very close. But the image and the number attached to white men, very different. Yes, there's a psychological difference. Attribute a lot of that to slavery, trauma, racism. Cool. Let's just set that aside for a second. What we see and what I see as a black man, my standard to be a good man is here, where most white men are already given the grace of provider men. Regardless of he doesn't really have to show up and prove it, just already is by nature of his skin color. I'm a representative of the worst of the race. He's not. And this is not something that I'm putting on women, something I'm putting on society. Whenever we see black people doing anything, you now carry a bit of that stigma on you, even if you've never participated in any of that part in your life. How many of you have heard it before in your life? You speak very well for a black. You are very articulate. You're well spoken. You're not like the. It's a very common trope that we hear, not just exclusively just men. I'm sure women have heard it too. It's how we look at each other and how we don't give each other that grace. Where another race, they don't have to carry the stigma of the worst of them.
You have another thing coming. If the issue is you don't know how to get along with men, then you're gonna run into that issue no matter what community you're trying to date or marry into. I really think a better strategy would be actually focusing on just being marriage material, focusing on the qualities that actually attract men. And then from there, you'll be able to find good men within your community or maybe even outside of the community. But I think it's really unhealthy when we just promote interracial marriage as like the best option and not actually deal with a lot of the issues that are impacting women. Sis,
I think she's absolutely spot on there. And more to the point of when you come to another community and they have their own guidelines or how the other ways that they prefer they want their women to act. If you haven't been sort of brought up and trained in that, you're coming in with your expectation, they're coming in with their expectation. But you're marrying into that community. Which one of you are supposed to bend? What we see is this glamorization of dating white men. It's so much easier. Your life is so much easier. They're better providers because they don't have the stigma of racism, because they have trust funds. And again, there are plenty of poor white people. Right? Right? There's plenty of that. We're all struggling under this Western sun. We're all victims of inflation. We all have to work. And thinking that because you're black, you're going to just leave and you have your own issues. You haven't worked on yourself to be a better wife to any type of man. But just because you're black and you open yourself up dating interracially, things become easier. Truth is, it's you're still dealing with men. When you look at men and you say they're the worst, I hate men, you really just saying in parentheses, black men. I hate how they are. I hate how they treat me. But this man over here, he'll never do me dirty. And part of why we don't realize that is you don't really see white women on here dogging them the same way black women dog their men. I say their men, I mean a long. But like she finished, it's better just to be a better you to attract someone. That's it. Rather than getting bogged down and saying, have to do this or have to do this or can't do this, or it makes you weak if you makes her strong if she does the very same. It's too convoluted, too difficult. And realistically, most people are going to find their person. They're going to they're going to say, I'm leaving all this behind. I don't have anything left to contribute to the negative spaces on it. Happy with my person and I'm gone. You never really see a slew of happy couples. Maybe there's a happy side of TikTok, a happy side of couples TikTok and couples YouTube that we're just not privy to, where people just get on, they share their recipes, they share their communication styles in an uncringy sort of manner. Because I've come across a few of them, or some of them have been sent to me. What one can hope. Right now, let's just use this as a start of the conversation and stay tuned for more. Hopefully, we can get this actual dialogue back and forth. I'll see you in the next one.